Alright, welcome ladies and gentlemen to the official one and only Smite Super Builds. Today we have Bellona with us. But first, I'm going to quickly go through her abilities and how they matter into building Bellona for the newer players to Smite and or to Bellona. Now, overall, Bellona is a very basic attack dependent from gaining stacks to healing herself. Let's go through these examples here. The first example being her passive. Upon giving or receiving hits from basic attacks, Bellona gains protections and movement speed, but we're looking to give those basic attacks. The next example is her shield bash. After she does the initial shield bash, she attacks with her sword and shield. Every third successful basic attack gains her another stack of blocks, so that's really important there. Next is her Scourge. After you do the initial Scourge whip attack, every third basic attack heals Bellona, so there is your sustain. So we don't have to necessarily be building into a lifesteal item in order to sustain ourselves. So let's go into actually building Bellona. So if you'll be playing Bellona in Conquest, you'll be playing in a wide variety of roles. She is very versatile. You can put her in the jungle, which is probably the most common. You can be in the soul lane, you can be a little crazy, and you can be a support or even an ADC. She can really go anywhere. But regardless, in Conquest, you definitely do want to have some type of starter item. And of course, if you are jungler, you definitely want to go to the Bumba's Max. That is the jungler starter item. If you're just laning, you can go to the Death's Toll. It works really well with your basic attack chains and things like that. Or in the case if you are going to test into that support, you could probably be picking up the Watcher's Gift to help sustain you gold, HP, and mana wise. Now, moving into boots, you can actually go into either boots. It's kind of personal preference. You can go to the Warrior Tabby or Ninja Tabby. Again, you make good use out of both physical power and attack speed. But for now, let's just go with the Warrior Tabby. Next, you see this most commonly in Conquest, that you can go into the Ichaival. It's a really cheap and efficient item, gives you a lot of attack speed, and the penetration that early on is quite a bit, since gods scale. As gods scale, they get more and more physical protections, but in the early stages they have very low, so this matters a whole much more. As well as the passive, being able to gain extra physical power through boxing your target, as well as stealing their physical power. So it's very important if you do go against, like if you're fighting against a warrior or something like that, you can steal up to 30 of their physical power, which if they have warrior tabby boots, then they're down to 10 physical power. So it's a really nice boxing item. Now, not all the time is Ichaival the most efficient and the best item to go for your second item, most notably game modes like Arena, where you can't exactly lock down one target that is physical and just 1v1 box that target. Arena is more like a all-out bar fight, and it could get really crazy. You're fighting, a mix between mages and guardians, things like that, so you can't really get the full benefit from the Ichaival all the time in other game modes. Another option for a secondary item is the Yon's Wrath. Now, this offers a good amount of physical power and mana to complement the really nice cooldown reduction, which we make use of that cooldown reduction, just switching, I guess switching stances, if you will, switching between, for example, Scourge to disarm your opponent to the sword and shield, so you can work on those block stacks, things like that. You still get the early penetration, which is nice, but we can always get that attack speed later on that we are missing from the Ichaival. But for now, let's just go ahead and pick up the Ichaival. Now, moving on, Frostbound Hammer is definitely a hard trend for Bellona. It offers a lot of HP, physical power, you can never go wrong with that, but mainly the passive. Being able to stick to your target is very important with Bellona. You do have one slow with your shield bash, but that's only for 2 seconds. This, as long as you keep hitting them, then you can keep slowing them, and if you're fighting against a attack speed heavy god, you can also slow their attack speed by 15% for 2 seconds. So let's go ahead and pick that item up. Next, we are missing one very, very important thing if you're looking to do damage with any god, and that is the penetration aspect. Let's just go with the Ichaival. It is the best bet for Bellona for penetration. Offers both physical power, attack speed, really great passive where it works off stacks, and as well as it has raw physical protection reduction, as well as a nice percentage, so it does a good job at reducing all types of physical protections. Now, moving on from here, this is where it gets kind of interesting as far as situational building. Since warriors are overall very versatile in their builds, you can go a wide variety of ways, from tank to bruiser to pure damage. So there's a lot of different builds that you can go for these warriors. And sometimes the last few items just kind of boil down to situational building and what the enemy team comp consists of. Now, some common items that you can go into is the Midgardian Mail. This works well if you're either getting focused by ADCs and assassins, or they just have a lot of them on the enemy team. You can go to the Midgardian Mail for that. Or if you want a really well balanced defensive item, you can go into the Spear Robe. Again, with the cooldown reduction, if you did pick up the Yon's Wrath earlier, then with this item you are at the cap cooldown reduction, so you can easily switch between your different abilities for your certain situation. Now, this works really great. Now, it does have no HP, but we did pick up the HP item with the Frostbound Hammer, and this is where we get all the protections from. So you can go into this item if you really want to. Now, other defensive items that you can go into, you can go into the Magus Blessing. It's not really too popular nowadays since the nerf to it, but you're looking to pick this up if some gods are CCing you and you can't really get your initiation going and you can't really chase down anybody. So that is when you can pick up the Magus Blessing. Or you can go into more of a bruiser defensive item. You can go to the Runeforged Hammer. It's really cheap and efficient. You know, let's say that if the match is ending really soon and you just need something to give you a little bit more boost in defensive area, you can pick this up since it's so cheap. It has a really nice passive of turning a percentage of your physical protection into physical power. Now, a Witchblade, you can go into this looking just to shut down the enemy's attack speed and physical power, so it works really well against enemies, hunters, and assassins, especially if they have a lot of those in a weird comp like, let's say, Assault. And you can also benefit from the attack speed, so not too bad of an item. If the enemy team has a lot of slows and it's really annoying you, you can go into the very cheap and efficient item that is Winged Blade, offering a lot of HP. Now, the cooldown reduction is a little tricky here, so if you went with the Yon's Wrath and Spirit Robe, then you're definitely overcapping with Winged Blade, right? So this just kind of manage your cooldown reduction. The cooldown reduction cap is 40%, so just kind of be wary of that. But let's just say you did not pick up Yon's Wrath and you just have the Spear Robe cooldown reduction, then this is totally fine. You can get the full benefit from it. You get attack speed, movement speed, and the passive, like I mentioned before. With the slows, you can be immune to slows, and then get a nice speed boost. And then finally, if you're not having too much trouble with the defensive department, you can go into more damage. If you're looking for more penetration, for example, the enemy team is building a lot of just pure physical protection, you can go into the Titan's Bane. If not, if they are building a lot of HP, then obviously you can go into the Shin Size. So it just kind of depends on whichever you want to go into. And of course, you always have the crit option of going into Rage. You can go into that. But for now, let's just go ahead and pick up the Shin Size so we can continue the video. Now let's go into actives really quickly here. So actives, we have a wide variety of actives as always, and for the most part they are situational, such as the Heavenly Agility. It works really well just to boost your overall team's movement speed. So if you go in for a nice siege on their base, you can do this, and it also makes everybody immune to slows, and also have their healing increased by 25%. So if you have any healers on your team, or a high health regeneration gods, and you can pick this up and get the full benefit from that. Or you can go into the Blink. The Blink is always kind of like the style pick. Now, for Bellona, there's not too much reason for Blink. The reason being is her passive, or sorry, her ultimate, though it did get a nerf on the cooldown for it, it is still on a very short cooldown. And then typically you kind of use this to kind of just close the gap between you and your enemy. And if you land on top of them, then you stun them. But you can go to something stylish like a Blink into an ultimate, and then you're definitely close a lot of distance with that. So that is always an option. Or you can go to the Combat Blink. If the enemy team has an Odin and you don't have your ultimate up, and the Odin just kind of closes in on you, does his ultimate, the Ring of Spears, and you can't really fight it, things like that, then you can go ahead and pour it right out with the Combat Blink. Then moving on to Salvation, this is mostly used in Assault, obviously just to keep your team healthy so that you cannot go back to your base to heal up. Or you can use this against Execution gods such as Thanatos and or Kwang, you basically use this for yourself or allies around you to get the HP back up, and that way they can't be executed. And then finally we can go into the Shield of the Underworld. Really great for boxing ADCs and assassins, or if Poseidon's about to drop a huge Kraken on you, and you can pop this and reflect a lot of damage back to them, as well as you cannot be lifestealed from, back on the topic of the ADCs and assassins. And then we always have the Greater Purification Beads, probably the best active right now, and has always been. You can just immune CCs as well as break CCs on you and be immune to further ones. As well as the tier 3 version, you get a nice reduction in your cooldowns by 3 seconds. So now that's going to wrap it up for the build video. Of course, there are plenty of builds for Bellona. If you're a main Bellona and you have a build that works really well for you, you can let me know in the comment section below. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.